After not seeing him for a month, John just thrust a divorce lawyer's business card at me without even asking, "Are you okay?" or "How are you feeling?" Divorcing a wife who doesn't work, pay me $1,000 a month as alimony sounds good. Take care. John chuckled as he said this, standing beside him. Jessica was wrapping her arm around his, wearing a similar smug expression. "Fine, let's divorce then." I said it so casually that John seemed a bit surprised, but he quickly shared his smile with Jessica. "Good thing Jan isn't much of a thinker. It makes my plan easier to execute." After the divorce papers got approved, I decided to start my revenge plan on both of them. I will make them cry as a celebration of my recovery. My name is Lisa Wolfe. I'm a 47-year-old illustrator. I'd also work as a children's book author. I just love drawing. I have 2 childhood friends, JN and Jessica. They're important friends to me, and JN is also my husband. It all started when John asked me out as I was heading to a different college after high school. I was surprised. I thought he was into Jessica, but I couldn't say no to a confession from John, whom I had secretly liked. After some thought and consultation with Jessica, I accepted John's proposal. Jessica's behavior had been a bit problematic since teens, but she was still a dear friend to both John and me. However, Jessica had a tendency to snatch other people's boyfriends and then dump them once they became obsessed with her, causing problems time and again. Her parents were concerned, so John and I often spent time with her to watch over her. John and I got married when we were 25. 4 years later, Jessica brought her fiancé into our lives. His name was Johnson, a professional working for a top-tier company. "Nice to meet you, Lisa and John. I've heard so much about you. Looking forward to our future together." Johnson was very polite, and we all got along immediately. We would get together during holidays and vacations, taking trips or going on long train rides to enjoy some drinks. However, things started falling apart after Jessica got pregnant 2 years into her marriage. John and I originally had many siblings, so there was no worry about it. So we decided we didn't need children. Both of us love kids but weren't keen on actively caring for them. Besides, we loved our freedom to travel and enjoy drinks. We often found it heartwarming to see families with children, but it was never more or less than that. When Jessica announced her pregnancy, John's attitude started to change. He quit smoking because Jessica said she couldn't stand the smell and even offered to drive her at doctor's appointments using his vacation days. I warned him, "Johnson might get upset if you're always with Jessica," but John argued back, "You have work, don't you? She's our childhood friend and she's reaching out for help. You're heartless." I said, "I've been buying things and helping where I can, but going with her to the obstetrician is crossing the line." When I said that, John frowned and then he glared at me. "Why?" "Because Jessica wants it, right? She says she's anxious about the checkup. I can't just let her go alone if she's anxious. All the more reason for Johnson to go with her, right? If you go with her every time, it's almost like you're the father of the baby in her belly, John." "Jealous you're not going to get pregnant anyway, so what's the problem?" He didn't take my concerns seriously and instead started to snap, saying I was being annoying. We had hardly ever had a fight during our marriage, but things changed when Jessica got pregnant. Our arguments increased, and that didn't change even after Jessica gave birth. In fact, JN started spending even more time with Jessica and their child, Ashley, but when Ashley was 6, an incident occurred. It had to do with the attendees of Ashley's graduation ceremonies. The day before the graduation, John suddenly started rummaging through the closet. "John, what are you doing? Have a meeting tomorrow?" John's workplace had a casual dress code, but there was a rule to wear a suit during client meetings, so he always kept a few suits ready, but they were all thrown on the bed now. No, just trying to decide what to wear for the graduation ceremony." "What? You're seriously thinking of attending the graduation?" "Yeah, Johnson can't make it. Jessica asked me." "Wait, that's absurd, no matter how you look at it." I inadvertently raised my voice in denial. Immediately, John's face turned sour. I knew he occasionally picked Ashley up from kindergarten, and I had done so myself when asked. Yet it was nonsensical for a childhood friend who wasn't even a biological parent to attend a graduation ceremony. "What? You still doubt me and Jessica? I'm disappointed that you can't even help out. That's not the point. Point anyway. I'm attending the graduation tomorrow, so iron a shirt properly." John said that and abruptly ended the conversation, leaving me behind and going to the bedroom. I had no choice but to call Jessica. Hello, Jessica. Sorry about tomorrow. I'm borrowing John, but won't Johnson be upset about the graduation attendance? Lisa, what are you talking about? Obviously, I haven't told Johnson that the graduation is tomorrow. I'll tell him after to the ceremony. I was shocked to learn that Johnson didn't know about the graduation schedule. Upon further questioning, it seemed that Jessica hadn't informed Johnson about any of the kindergarten events so far, and John had been acting as the father at the kindergarten, which made me dizzy with its selfishness. Wait a minute, Jessica, isn't that extremely unreasonable? It's disrespectful to Johnson, and just because he's a childhood friend, what's wrong, Lisa? You're scary. We'll see you tomorrow. Wait, Jessica. I was trembling with anger at Jessica, who unilaterally hung up the phone. Still, in the end, I ironed a shirt, prepared a tie, and the next morning saw John off to Ashley's graduation ceremony. Since then, Jessica and John started going out more frequently, from once a month to once a week, and then to 3 times a week. Eventually, even Johnson seemed to have some suspicions, and one day, while John and Jessica were out, he visited our house alone. I'm sorry for visiting you late at night. There's something that's been bothering me. Is it about the 2 of them? Yes, I would like you to take a look at this. Johnson showed me the GPS history he had installed in Jessica's car. It showed that she had been staying at a hotel 3 times a week. All of those days, she was out with JN, and just by looking at Johnson's face, I understood what that meant. What do you want to do, Johnson? I want to take revenge on those 2. Me too. I can't forgive them for betraying us after all this time. We started planning our revenge on them secretly. First, I started by increasing my income because I had been saving by doing housework and taking care of Enma. My income had drastically decreased. Johnson switched to working from home, and when Jessica and John would go out, he would bring Ashley to my house and we would take care of her together. Neither Jessica nor John realized that we knew about the relationship, and we were able to gather solid evidence. Once we had collected enough evidence and were ready to take our revenge, we discovered a shocking truth about Ashley. Johnson and I struggled with the decision, but we both agreed that we didn't want to hurt young Ashley, so we decided to wait until she was an adult to take our revenge. However, even though we decided to endure for 10 years, I was struck with a serious illness. I needed long-term hospitalization, and even at best, I wouldn't be discharged for at least 2 years. Although I could work from the hospital room, it was certain that I would have to reduce my workload. After informing Johnson about the situation, I consulted John. However, John's reaction was no different from when we were making small talk. I'll visit you once in a while. I felt that JN no longer had any affection for me as he didn't even ask about my condition or the name of the disease. In reality, Jane only visited once a month or once every 2 months, and after Ashley's 15th birthday, she started acting strangely. Although she used to visit me almost every day right after I was hospitalized, she became distant after her 15th birthday. However, neither Johnson nor I could figure out why. And we were puzzled even when we asked Ashley. She just said, "Don't worry about it." However, we ended up learning the reason from JN, who rarely showed up. Hey, it's been a while. Yeah, it has JN, who had completely transformed into a flashy appearance. Walked in without even knocking after not seeing him for a month. John just thrust a divorce lawyer's business card at me without even asking. Are you okay, or how are you feeling? Divorcing a wife who doesn't work. Pay me $1. $1,000 a month as alimony, that's the deal, so take care, John said, grinning from ear to ear beside him. Jessica wrapped her arms around JNS with a similar expression on her face. Fine, let's divorce. Then I casually agreed, which seemed to surprise Jay for a moment, but he quickly exchanged smiles with Jessica. It was good that JN wasn't the type to think too deeply. That's why my plan worked so well after receiving a notification that the divorce was finalized from John. There decided to start my revenge plan. Against the 2 of them, I will make them cry as a celebration of my recovery. I promptly started to take action first. I contacted Johnson to transfer hospitals. Then I informed my lawyer that they would be mediating between the 2 parties from now on. Johnson also began to act at the same time. He moved near my new hospital with Ashley, and he started to visit me frequently. Ashley still had a gloomy expression, but I was happy that she came to see me every day. Most of my belongings were already in the hospital room, so I told John to dispose of the rest. I didn't want to bring anything that the two of them might have touched into my new life once the hospital transfer and Johnson and Ashley's move settled down. I received a call from John. I had only left my seat for a few minutes, but my smartphone already showed 30 missed calls. I answered the phone feeling exasperated. What? Hey, what the hell is going on? I could hear the voice of a troubled real estate agent behind John's panicked voice. I also heard Jessica yelling, which made me feel sick. What do you mean, what's going on? It's obviously about the house. Why do we have to move out? John shouted at me as if it wasn't his fault at all. I replied to him coolly. Obviously, because that's my house. Ha! JN seemed to have completely forgotten. But the truth was, the house we lived in was a room I rented as a workspace when I started to make a living as a freelancer at that time. I didn't have enough income to maintain two houses, and John didn't have enough income to live alone, so he ended up moving into my place. Therefore, Jan had never paid the rent or utility bills for that room, although I received some money from him for living expenses. It wasn't enough to maintain the place. Unfortunately, that room was already canceled. It was far from the hospital I transferred to, so I had processed the cancellation the day after submitting the divorce papers. I didn't inform him because the real estate agent who knew the situation said they would. Contact him. Johnson and Ashley suddenly disappeared and our house was sold. What are we going to do about our new house? I don't know, maybe stay in a business hotel for now, as I turned on the speaker and started working. JN yelled in frustration, "Don't screw with me." However, he seemed to remember something and started speaking in a more soothing tone. Well, whatever. When will you transfer the money? We're running low on cash. What are you talking about, huh? Don't M around. I told you to pay $11. Susan, didn't I? Oh, I don't recall agreeing to that. My non-ent response was met with incoherent screaming from Johan on the other end of the phone. Apparently, he thought he could get money from me and had been squandering it even if he had $11. Susan left. How did he plan to get by for the rest of the month? Hey, don't just stay silent. Say something. There's really nothing to talk about. My retort left John momentarily dumbfounded, but he soon started yelling again, growing increasingly annoyed. I addressed JN in as cheerful a tone as I could muster. Anyway, we're basically strangers now, so please don't contact me anymore. You'll hear from my lawyer. Huh? Lawyer? Hey, wait a minute. I wound up without listening to John's response. He tried calling back several times, but I ignored it, and eventually the calls stopped, however angry that I didn't answer. John started ignoring calls from my lawyer. He certainly had a childish side, but I never imagined he'd be the kind of person who didn't mind causing trouble for others. I sighed deeply at John's selfishness. A few months later, after a temporary discharge from the hospital, I visited John's parents' house in front of me, where JN and Jessica both looking small and trembling. You tell him my parents is a low blow? Oh, I just reported that we got divorced. Jan glared at me in response to my answer, but he shrank back under his father's stern gaze. Actually, I had a great relationship with my in-laws, even visiting and dining with them when John wasn't around, despite being so well loved. I felt it was wrong not to share the details of our divorce, so I went to visit them. Is it true that you're remarrying? Jessica? Yes, it's true, Jessica. Ashley and are going to start over as a family. What are you talking about? Your only family is Lisa. She's not my family anymore. John's words made his father frown with a look that seemed to say, "Give me a break." JN shook his head a few times, then handed me a piece of paper. It was a bill from a nearby luxury hotel. What's this? It's the bill from the hotel we stayed at, John. Acting as if it was obvious, pointed at the bill on the table, then suddenly collapsed. Oh, what the heck, Mom? I didn't raise you to be like this. My mother-in-law, gasping for breath, was met with a look of disbelief from John next to him. Jessica wore the same expression. Why are you so angry? It's just that the family is changing because I'm getting married. Plus, you'll have a grandchild, a blood-rated one at that. Aren't you happy? You two didn't, my mother-in-law, looking as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing, glanced at, then turned her gaze to me. Both my in-laws understood that I didn't want children and still treated me as their own daughter. Of course, they treated Jessica, my childhood friend, similarly, but there was always a boundary between a daughter-in-law and a friend. I remembered Jessica often complaining about that, so I was certain my mother-in-law wouldn't be happy about this situation, and Jessica should have known it too. You do on Ashley, right? It'll be your grandchild, so you'll be happy, right? It's because she's a child. I've known since she was little. Oh, but half of her blood is from John, right? Even after all this, Jessica showing no sign of remorse and acting as if she couldn't understand the problem gave me goosebumps at that moment. Someone who had been silent until now spoke up enough already. It's disgusting. Hot Ashley, who had been playing with her smartphone in the corner of the room, spoke to Jessica without looking up. The room fell into a stunned silence. My dad is the only one I consider my father, whether we're related by blood or not. He's the only one. But you know, JN has always been the one to attend your school events. I heard everything from Dad, how he was always informed of the event dates after they were over, how eventually even the events themselves were kept from him. But Dad always said I was his daughter, so I am his daughter and I will never be yours. Ashley glared at Jessica as she said this. Then, sitting beside me, she switched to a more concerned tone. You know, when I found out about this, I thought you would hate me, but Dad said that wasn't the case. So I came here today, Ashley. I love you so much. You were so kind to visit me every day. While I was in the hospital, I was really happy. Lisa Ashley, perhaps relieved of her anxiety, teared up, and Ed me tightly. It might indeed be a child resulting from an affair between John and Jessica. Yet, it's a child I've taken care of for 15 years. There's no way I don't have affection for her. Speaking of which, Jessica weren't. You curious why I wasn't surprised when I found out Ashley is John's daughter? Jessica looked startled before she could speak. A new person entered the room we knew from the start 10 years ago, actually. Johnson suddenly appeared, understandably so, as she had recently, unilaterally demanded a divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. I was shocked when you mentioned divorce. Oh, and unfortunately, you're not divorced yet. The divorce papers are still here. Didn't you notice what I figured it wasn't in Jessica and John's nature to confirm things? But I couldn't help but be stunned that Jessica, despite the 100-day waiting period for women to remarry, had noticed for months. So Jessica is still my wife, and Ashley is still my daughter. Well, since there won't be a wife, though. Wait, what do you mean? A 15-year-old can choose their parent. That's not true. Ashley wants to be with Mom, right? Jessica said that and looked at Ashley. Ashley frowned at Jessica and held my hand. Jessica was speechless at that and glared at me. Then, John suddenly burst into laughter. So that's what it is, you two are together. Huh, but too bad. Isn't it impossible to live on Johnson's salary alone? Can you? Stop making weird-ass assumptions. Also, it seems Johnson earns double the amount you think Jessica knows about it, huh? It's probably a bluff-a-lolo. Besides, it's impossible for you to work while dealing with your illness. You'll just die miserably somewhere. This time, I laughed at John's huge misunderstanding. JN seeing BFF start laughing was getting frustrated. You didn't know about my income, did you, huh? It's probably just a bit more than a part-time job. No, it's different. My annual income is $600,000. Huh? John's eyes and mouth were wide open in shock. Jessica was also stunned. In fact, over the past 10 years, I have become a popular children's book author, and my income had skyrocketed from essays, interviews, and moreover, a film adaptation is planned soon, so my income is skyrocketing. Liar, oh, do you want to see this? I said that and showed Jessica my bank account screen. It clearly showed a large amount of money being deposited every month. Jessica was at a loss for words when she saw it. Lisa, let's, make up, huh? What are you saying? Jessica was furious at jonk words, blinded by the money. I watched them blankly and then opened my mouth. Well, if you want to get married, feel free. Oh, and I'll definitely take the compensation for damages. Lisa, wait. Lisa, ignoring John's words. I took Ashley's hand, and after saying goodbye to my in-laws, I left their house. John originally worked at my father-in-law's company, but it was revealed that he was lying about going out for sales, and he was fired. My father-in-law planned to forcibly put him on a friend's fishing boat and work him to the bone. Working on a fishing boat was tough for an indoor-loving John, and he contacted me several times, but each time I notified my father-in-law, and eventually the calls stopped. Jessica lost custody to Johnson and got divorced. She seemed uninterested in John, who couldn't afford luxuries and didn't seem to chase after him. She was disowned by her family and lived alone in a rundown apartment. She hadn't worked at all since getting married, and since she had always made others do things for her, she couldn't do anything herself, and there were hardly any places that would hire her as a full-time employee. Still, she had to pay for her living expenses and child support. So she worked multiple part-time jobs and barely made ends meet after entering high school. Ashley worked hard every day to study abroad and go to a prestigious university overseas, being originally diligent. Her dream is to transat my picture books and deliver them to children all over the world, which makes me happy. As for me, my picture books are selling well, and I am receiving more and more offers for A&M adaptations and merchandise. My illness is also progressing well, and although I am still hospitalized, my doctor recently told me that I might be able to leave the hospital next year. And one more thing. Johnson and Ashley come to visit me every day, actually. Johnson recently confessed to me with remarriage in mind. I haven't given my answer yet, but I can't help but have feelings for him. He said he wants to live together when I leave the hospital while thinking about what to answer. I work on my picture books every day, hoping for a happy future for us. I weave stories again today. The scent of antiseptic was as familiar to me as the aroma of old paper in my studio. Sunlight, filtered through the hospital window, painted stripes across the sterile floor, landing on the colorful drawings Ashley had taped to the wall. It was her way of bringing the outside in, a testament to her unwavering optimism, a trait I deeply admired. "Another adaptation offer, Lisa?" Johnson asked, his voice a soothing balm to the constant hum of the hospital machinery. He stood by my bedside, a gentle giant with eyes that held a quiet understanding of my pain, both physical and emotional. I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "Apparently, the studio is keen on turning The Little Bear Who Lost His Roar into a stage musical." Imagine, Johnson, little bears dancing and singing on Broadway. Ashley, perched on the edge of my bed, her nose buried in a textbook, perked up. "Broadway? Can we go? Please?" "If I'm well enough, absolutely," I promised, my gaze shifting from Ashley to Johnson. He caught my eye, and a silent conversation passed between us. A promise of shared joy, a quiet hope for a future we were both tentatively building. The weight of Johnson's unspoken proposal still lingered in the air, a gentle pressure that both excited and terrified me. He had been my rock, my confidant, my co-conspirator in revenge, and now, potentially, my future. But the scars of betrayal ran deep, and the fear of repeating past mistakes was a constant companion. "Have you thought about it, Lisa?" Ashley asked, her question cutting through my reverie. "About Johnson, I mean." I sighed, running a hand through my thinning hair. "It's complicated, sweetheart. I love Johnson, I really do, but you're scared," she finished for me, her eyes filled with a wisdom beyond her years. "I get it. After what happened with John and Jessica, it's only natural. But Johnson isn't John. He would never hurt you." "I know that," I said softly. "It's not about Johnson. It's about me. About whether I'm capable of trusting again, of opening my heart completely after it's been shattered into a million pieces." Johnson knelt beside my bed, his hand gently covering mine. "You don't have to rush, Lisa. Take all the time you need. I'll be here no matter what." His words were simple, but they resonated with a profound sincerity that chipped away at the wall I had built around my heart. His unwavering patience, his genuine care, his steadfast presence. It was all I could ever ask for. Later that evening, after Johnson and Ashley had left, I lay in bed, the hospital room bathed in the soft glow of the nightlight. My mind wandered back to John and Jessica, to the wreckage they had left in their wake. John, stripped of his job, his wife, and his comfortable lifestyle, had spiraled into a bitter recluse, consumed by resentment and self-pity. He occasionally sent me rambling, incoherent emails filled with accusations and threats, but I simply deleted them without reading. He had become a ghost, a faded reminder of a life I no longer recognized. Jessica, on the other hand, had fared even worse. Disowned by her family and abandoned by John, she was forced to confront the consequences of her actions. She worked tirelessly at a string of menial jobs, barely scraping by, her once vibrant beauty dimmed by hardship and regret. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she often spoke of me with a mixture of envy and remorse, a painful acknowledgement of the life she had thrown away. While I reveled in their downfall initially, a sense of hollowness had gradually replaced my satisfaction. Revenge, I realized, was a dish best served cold, but it left a lingering aftertaste of emptiness. It was a fleeting pleasure that couldn't fill the void in my heart, couldn't erase the years of betrayal and pain. True healing, I understood, came not from inflicting suffering on others, but from rebuilding my own life, from finding joy in the simple things, from embracing the love and support that surrounded me. As I drifted off to sleep, I pictured myself standing on a Broadway stage, watching little bears dance and sing to a packed audience. I saw Ashley's beaming face, her eyes shining with pride, and I saw Johnson, standing in the wings, his gaze fixed on me with unwavering love and support. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope, a quiet confidence that I could navigate whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as I had them by my side. The next morning, when Johnson arrived with Ashley, I was waiting for him, a smile playing on my lips. "Johnson," I said, my voice trembling with emotion, "I think I'm ready." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and then, with a gentle smile, he took my hand. "Ready for what, Lisa?" "Ready to build a new life, a new future, together," I replied, my voice filled with conviction. "Ready to say yes." A wave of relief washed over his face, and he squeezed my hand tightly. "That's all I ever wanted, Lisa. To be with you, to love you, for the rest of my life." Ashley squealed with delight, throwing her arms around both of us. "I knew it! I knew you'd say yes!" As we embraced, bathed in the warm sunlight streaming through the hospital window, I realized that the greatest revenge wasn't about making my enemies suffer. It was about finding happiness, about creating a life filled with love, laughter, and unwavering support. It was about moving forward, leaving the past behind, and embracing the future with open arms. And with Johnson and Ashley by my side, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that we could overcome anything together. I would weave stories again, not of revenge, but of hope, love, and second chances, for that was the story I was now living.